In the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, you're under arrest, Chancellor.
Are you threatening me, Master Jedi?
The Senate will decide your fate.
I am the Senate.
Not yet. It's treason, then. Hello there, and welcome back to another Star Wars video where we discuss a hot topic of The Last Jedi. But before we do any of that, I just want to say thank you so much for your comments on my last video about the Star Wars Blu-ray. It was very humbling to see so many Star Wars fans so passionate about the topic I was talking about the Blu-ray set, even though if your opinion totally contradicts what I feel and say about Star Wars, that's still fine. Everyone is entitled to their own Star Wars opinions. I'm never going to judge you if your opinion doesn't align with mine or is completely different, because that's your opinion and we will hold Star Wars dearly in our own different ways. So whatever comment you left or anything, greatly appreciated. And it was really nice to read through them all and see what your thoughts were about The Last Jedi, how you thought about it. As for me, this is something which I find I hold extremely close and dear, and I find myself thinking about this pretty much 24/7 because I love Star Wars so much. But back to it. Now, I wanted to make this video because it was so apparent to me, and it's something which I've been thinking about for a long time. And the way that The Last Jedi was written and how it ended, it just made no sense whatsoever. And this is a big problem. And the massive gaping hole and the fundamental problem with The Last Jedi for me is that there is nothing to look forward to in episode 9. Now, this is a major, major issue with The Last Jedi. The fact that they made a film, and this is a problem with two directors, is that you feel like two directors, like J.J. Abrams made his story, Rian Johnson wanted to make his stand out, but he sort of made a standalone story. Like he started off, he did all the things that the characters were meant to do, in his mind were meant to do, and it went around, and then it came back, and then it sort of completed itself and left no questions, whereas J.J. Abrams, he created a load of characters and questions and everything, and it went round, but then they sort of spiraled off, and then nothing was answered. Like, you were left to ponder, to wonder, to get excited for the next film. And this was really, I think, a really clever way in starting off Star Wars movies. Even though people say it was a soft reboot for A New Hope, you can't help but realize that that was put in place because it was going to build up a lot of excitement for The Last Jedi. And sure enough, it worked. I mean, if you were like me and you were just counting down the days, the hours to when you could watch The Last Jedi, and you're starting to get so excited and realize that there's so many cool things that could be answered, like Snoke, who Rey's parents are, you know, what's going to happen to Kylo Ren, is Obi-Wan Kenobi going to show up as a Force ghost, is Yoda going to show up as a Force ghost, is Anakin going to show up as a Force ghost? Like, all these amazing questions that you have in your head, thinking this movie, if it's going to include all these things, is going to be completely epic. And that, like I said in my previous video, is not our fault. This is the fault of The Force Awakens subtly planting these thoughts into your head and then going on from finishing that film, making you believe that it's going to have a lot of importance in The Last Jedi. And that worked because obviously it drew a lot of attention and everything, but miserably backfired, and I think was a massive kick in the butt for Disney and Rian Johnson, because I think their arrogance in filmmaking and script writing here, trying to create something which was new, just failed completely. Taking that approach of doing the opposite didn't work, and therefore The Last Jedi suffered from its consequences, from not answering any of those questions. Now, as much as I hated that they didn't answer any of the questions or anything that you kind of wanted to look forward to, I admired the fact that they they gave you interesting thoughts and they allowed you to speculate and theorize about everything. Watch videos on YouTube, like endlessly is something which I do, try and find all the Star Wars theories, and there's many Star Wars channels which highly enjoy like Star Wars theory. To me, it becomes so captivating because The Force Awakens created so many questions and had so much potential that when it came to theorizing what might be, it allowed channels like Star Wars Theory to make these awesome videos about these brilliant theories about Snoke, who he might be, and that's the problem. They built up the expectations so high. So Disney themselves and Rian Johnson created a lot of pressure on themselves and J.J. Abrams from creating all these questions. So it kind of backfires. So you really do need a medium in between creating questions and thoughts and theories throughout the movie which can be answered in the next movie, but also giving the fan service or answering some previous questions and having some reveals of some sort. But this is what The Last Jedi really didn't do so well whatsoever. It's terrible that I have to admit this, but The Last Jedi for me is probably the most disappointing movie which I have ever watched, purely because the way they went around not giving you anything to look forward to, answering nothing in a way which you would expect, and doing the complete opposite in terms of storytelling to try and be different and unique and something which the audience wasn't expecting. But the audience doesn't expect crap. Like, you shouldn't feed them crap to do the unexpected. It doesn't make sense. So this is the biggest problem with The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi didn't do what J.J. Abrams did, and that's something I kind of liked in The Force Awakens, that he made those questions. He introduced characters like Snoke, Rey, and it made you ponder, it made you think about where these people came from and what they are. But in The Last Jedi, it was the complete opposite. It was the most anticlimactic way to reveal certain things with these characters and to do certain things to these characters, which once all these so-called climactic things happened, it just gave you nothing to look forward to at the end of the film. And I remember, like I mentioned in my Blu-ray, why I won't be buying The Last Jedi on Blu-ray video, that feeling at the end of the film where the Star Wars fan in me was like, come on, it's Star Wars. Like, you love this. This doesn't matter what it is, it's Star Wars. But it was just that resounding, overwhelming emptiness and that blank feeling of, like, I didn't register that I was feeling it at the time, but it was, oh my God, what have I just watched? What has just happened to these characters which I care about? What the hell happened with Snoke? I mean, it just made no sense whatsoever to finish the film in this way. And I don't get how Disney allowed Rian Johnson to write the script and then leave it how it was. But it's not only that, to kind of have the audacity to say in, like, in interviews and Star Wars Celebration, that this is, Rian Johnson has just written the most beautiful script, as Kathleen Kennedy would say. I remember thinking, well, it must be pretty good if Lucasfilm was so confident about it. And then another bit where Mark Hamill was sitting there in an interview, and then Kathleen Kennedy sort of noticed Mark Hamill was a bit upset with his character. And you could tell Mark Hamill was sort of subtly trying to tell you, like, his character's not how he would imagine it to be. And I feel like he's been so open about it that Disney have probably had words with him to try and say, well, no, you can't really say that. And so he's sort of backtracking a little bit, maybe. But I just feel so sorry for Mark Hamill. Knowing that Colin Trevorrow, the chap who did Jurassic World, was going to be doing episode 9. And if you haven't heard already, he wrote a script or had ideas for Luke and Leia in episode 9. Mark Hamill said it was so epic, and it just had scenes for Princess Leia which would have been amazing. And I feel like Colin is a chap who understands Luke Skywalker, the myth, the legend, the hero, and his character, so he knows how to make an epic. But it's because of Kathleen Kennedy, because she wanted to get rid of Luke Skywalker in this film, that Colin was let go because of creative differences, which is the biggest pile of horse crap. She's even said it in interviews how she wanted to kind of let go of people, but not without saying firing, but she wanted to say something else, but it's firing. Like, you can tell how she just really doesn't care. She wants what she wants, and if she can't get it, then say goodbye to those people. And I think Colin was someone like a proper person who would respect the franchise, be brought in to make some really cool scenes, and he understood that Luke was important, so he made a story which would have justified his importance. And Kathleen Kennedy thinking, no, we've created these characters, and we want these to be the main characters, and we don't want anyone taking the limelight or anything like that. And that was my kind of impression of her. But you can imagine her thinking that, and that's the massive problem with these movies, is that they're trying to clear out the iconic characters for the new characters, which just don't hold up. They don't stand the test of time. You don't really care that much about them. You could do if they're handled in a different way and their characters made more sense, but there's no weight, there is no depth to these characters. Like, when you're watching the films, like, nothing bad really happens to them, which doesn't give them any weight. It gives their characters no progression. It makes the opponents seem like, well, if this has happened before and nothing bad has happened to them, it loses the depth in the sort of opposing, oppressive feeling that you should get from the bad guys. And the fact that nothing like that happens because these are the so-called heroes, that's not how you treat heroes. The thing, like with Finn, and when he nearly had that heroic moment and it was just getting really emotional, and then Rose comes in. I mean, that's just a prime example of just nothing bad can happen to these heroes. But in episode 4, 5, and 6, the heroes go on a journey, bad things happen to them. Han gets frozen in carbonite. Luke has his hand chopped off. Things happen like that, and you see progression. And if you compare the Luke Skywalker at the start of A New Hope to Luke Skywalker at the end of Return of the Jedi, what do you see? You see a farm boy who dreams of going on adventures, but it's kind of bogged down by Tatooine and moisture farming. At the end of it, he's leading the rebellion. He's a Jedi Knight. He's dueling his father. He's defeated the Emperor, and he's become a brave and wise Jedi Knight. Like, trials have happened in between that, character development, everything, and it's created the perfect hero. Now, if you look at the 2 films we've got so far, now tell me what's happened with Finn. What's happened with Finn in character development? Yes, he turned into a rebel, but Finn still, nothing really has happened to Finn. Like, he's defeated Phasma. We kind of guessed it was going to happen. Rey. So let's see what's happened to Rey. Rey begun with being able to have lightsaber duels with Sith dark users like Kylo Ren, and she can continue to do it in this film as well. Same with the Force. She uses the Force the first one, and now she can use the Force again in this one. But of course can defeat Luke Skywalker in stick battles. So obviously she's clearly more powerful than Luke Skywalker now. Poe Dameron, ace pilot. If anything, they kind of ruined his character a bit more by trying to make him seem like this cocky pilot. I just thought he was a good pilot, one who believed in the rebel cause and just wanted to do anything to help the rebellion. And because of that, he is one of the leaders. I didn't realize that he's now this power-hungry resistance freedom fighter. So his character kind of went downhill. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Like, there's no trials for these characters, and this is what gives you nothing to look forward to in episode 9. Everyone hit the reset button. Like, Kylo Ren is something which I do not understand how they went this way with Kylo Ren. Like, he, at the end of the movie, is still the exact same Kylo Ren as the start of the movie. He's a supreme leader, but he still seems unbalanced and shouting and just very upset with everything. There's no character development there. Like, there was opportunity and there was moments where it could have happened plenty of times in this film, which would have made it interesting. That's what I cannot stress highly enough, that Kylo Ren should have been saved by Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker should have saved Kylo Ren. Snoke should have used some dark force powers to turn Rey dark in this film. And then he had Rey, Luke Skywalker, then saves Kylo Ren. Then Kylo Ren now has a decision to make. Like, he feels the light. He's starting to turn back to light. Him and Luke patch things up. And then that gives you something to look forward to in episode 9, because Luke and Kylo Ren have to go and save Rey and defeat Snoke. And Snoke might have the Knights of Ren with him, which Kylo Ren's the leader of. So this sort of character thing, dynamics which would have been going on there, like Kylo Ren would have had to make some serious choices in the final showdown in episode 9. That's something to look forward to. Rey has gone dark. Is she going to turn back to light? That's something to look forward to. Luke saved Kylo Ren. Is Kylo Ren going to stay good? Or is he going to turn back and be tempted by the Knights of Ren or Snoke again? That's something to look forward to. Would Luke defeat Snoke? That's something to look forward to as well. But all those things, like potential things like that, were completely ruined because it was all in this circle thing, which I was mentioning about earlier on, like the way the story's gone around in a circle, like a standalone film. And this is because of Rian Johnson's script. Like, he just made everything, he tried to make climactic things. Like, I saw an interview with him talking to Andy Serkis, and he's basically like, it comes to this point and then Snoke gets killed and it's going to be this really climactic scene. And then Andy Serkis is like, he dies in this one. And you could see even Andy Serkis thinking, what's the point? Like, why would you do that? And it's even seen in other interviews, Andy Serkis saying, well, hopefully he comes back. That's wishful thinking, but you can't return really from that. I don't think you can really return from making those sort of choices you did in the film. Otherwise it becomes a joke, and it will feel like in episode 9 that J.J. Abrams will be patching up the bad job which Rian Johnson did. And that's why I feel like episode 8 has been completely ruined. They say this is going to be the biggest Star Wars. The whole film in episode 9 is going to be the biggest Star Wars battle. It's going to be conflict throughout. But why? Why is there going to be conflict? From what we've seen so far, the Resistance is now even less than the, 100 people they had previously. In the whole galaxy, there is now like 20 people in the Millennium Falcon. Also, the First Order has utter control over everything else. Like, we haven't seen that, but we're made to believe it is. So why would we think there would be this huge battle now in episode 9? It's just a lousy story writing, and I don't know how Disney didn't just look at what Kathleen Kennedy has kind of produced with Rian Johnson and shown them and thought, there isn't really anything to look forward to here. Like, perhaps we should make some decisions with the characters. So episode 9, things can happen in there to answer questions and keep the audience interested and intrigued. But instead, no, it was the complete opposite. And I don't know if you are like me, but you just had that sort of feeling in your head that you feel like you should go and see episode 9 when it comes out. But why? Why would you want to see it? The only reason you would go to see it is to see how this concludes. But in your mind, when you think about Last Jedi, The Last Jedi has almost concluded it. You don't really care that much about the First Order now. You don't really care about the Rebellion. It's kind of, it's just rebooting the Rebellion. Like, the Rebellion was the Rebellion in episode 4, 5, and 6. So why is there another Rebellion? Why do we have to see that all over again? I feel like it's that whole thing of everything's going around in circles. Like, the First Order is obviously the Empire, but the Empire was destroyed, and it was done in such a way which created such a good ending, such closure in Return of the Jedi. So like I said before, it's got to be one hell of a story for it to have any meaning and get the audience interested. But this sort of, First Order stormtroopers and these lousy characters, and now they've killed off Snoke, the only potential for the First Order in building up this dark, ominous threat and this imposing figure that we don't know much about, but it creates that intrigue. It's all gone. There's no reason to look forward to seeing what's going to happen with the First Order. It's just, what was the point in creating those characters for it to be, just mistreated in this way? Like, very well, if you killed him off knowing that you're going to make Knights of the Old Republic type trilogy and then include Snoke in that. You shouldn't do that, because the audience is invested in the Snoke that you see there on the screen. It's not invested in this other trilogy, and you shouldn't be using these films to go and make someone watch the other films because you didn't answer the questions with Snoke in this film. Like, that's what I feel like they're going to be doing. The thing is, I feel like they should have gone down the Knights of the Old Republic sort of trilogy first, but the only reason I could see why they wanted to make these films, episode 7, 8 and 9, is because they could use the characters like Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo to draw in the audience, and that was the only sort of selling mechanism they were using, because they know the audiences want to see these characters, but at the same time trying to push their new characters in, but so badly it just backfires. That's why I feel like it doesn't work. That's why I have in my head that, are these stories worth it? Should we be interested in these stories? Why am I not excited for episode 9? And this is the major flaw with The Last Jedi, is that this style of filming and this thing that they created just has left you nothing to look forward to in episode 8. They should have gone down the Knights of the Old Republic way or something like that to create something new. And I think that would have worked. But this whole thing with the First Order rising from the ashes of the Empire, it's like, I feel like it's an insult to Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader and the Empire. You don't want to see it, sort of, all the hard work that the heroes went through in episode 4, 5 and 6 to defeat the Empire, for it to not work fully and then the New Order to build. It shouldn't work like that. I think Snoke should have had like his own faction that should have just remained. I know the First Order was in the unknown regions, but it was built from the Empire, and it's the fact that they've got that connection there. I don't feel like that should have worked. Snoke should have been, and all of Snoke's forces, the New Order, if it was still called that, should have been in hiding from the Knights of the Old Republic days. Like, that should have been a massive army just hiding there in space, biding their time and seeing what the right time was to take over the Empire. And when it was fragile, after the rebellion had just defeated the Empire, that's the time when Snoke appears and strikes, and it's that threat from the past. But they didn't delve into anything cool like that, like old Star Wars mythology, where they could have gone and talked about like the old Sith, and there's something else which I noticed as well. I think it's the start. I've got it in my phone. I really do enjoy the Star Wars game, Star Wars Heroes, and there's some things in that where you play levels, and it's got old Star Wars Sith legends, like Darth Hylas, I think that's what he's called, and yeah, so basically just before you go into a battle, it sets up this scene where you're going to be dueling, and these Sith Lords, like, it's kind of like in Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, where you revisit Korriban and stuff. It has that ancient feel to it, and this mystic Sithy feel, and it feels awesome. Like, you feel intrigued about these Dark Lords of the Sith and these Dark Force users, and they should have done something like that with Snoke, but they haven't. It's just like everything in these new Star Wars films feels like it could be real life. It doesn't have that mystic history or mythology. You don't feel that with these new films. You feel that with these old Star Wars characters, but not these new ones. I've probably talked a little bit too much on this topic, but I think that is the major flaw with episode 8. They've left you with nothing to look forward to. And those points we mentioned earlier on, hopefully sort of give you some sort of clarity in why I feel like that, and why it's such a big problem that Disney have done this to these characters. Like, I don't really understand the thought process that's gone behind The Last Jedi, and someone must have sat there, maybe in one of the screenings, and just thought, I wish I was that person in the screening and I could have been sitting there watching Last Jedi at the end and being like, did everyone just watch that? Ryan, did you write that? What are we meant to be looking forward to in the next film? What, Kathleen, did you let him write that? Yeah, and you said this was an amazing script. The beautiful script, you said. Those are your words. What happened with Snoke? Rey's parents. What? It's very near and dear to me still, and still recovering at the end of The Last Jedi. I stood there in the supermarket looking at Star Wars Last Jedi on Blu-ray. I was staring at it. The Star Wars fan in me said, "Get it. You need it." And come on, it's a Star Wars movie, but no, I just can't. Like I said in my last video, I just can't bring myself to buy it. It's not going to be added to my collection. I don't want to give Disney the satisfaction. I don't want to help their sales with this. I want them to know that, you know, you can't make Star Wars movies like this, not encompassing all the important things and the essence of Star Wars. I don't feel like they understand it, and I don't feel like they understand all of us fans and just making films for us. I feel like they're making films for themselves. And that's why The Last Jedi, I feel, failed so miserably. And it's because of their arrogance in filmmaking, and the decisions they made, which by the end of it gave you nothing to look forward to for episode 9. So that is the biggest problem with The Last Jedi, is that sense of not caring what happens and not wondering, not pondering about anything. But the only thing you can do is just theorize on what could have happened. That's what this movie has left you with. What could have happened with these characters? How cool would it been if this happened, as opposed to, oh, that happened, that wasn't cool. So those are my thoughts. Strong opinions, of course, but you know me by now. I'm a diehard Star Wars fan, and I never say anything because I wish to offend anyone. And those are just my thoughts, and like I said, I will not press my ideas on anyone, and I will not feel bad if your ideas are different from mine. We're all Star Wars fans, and I just love that we stick together and we just share this similar passion for this movie. And there's no one nicer to me than Star Wars fans. Like, if I ever meet Star Wars fans in real life, and you could just talk, I could talk for hours about it, and just see the passion and everything that person feels about Star Wars. And that's what I find magical, is that is in someone. And, you know, there's so many people that have that feeling, and people that just say it's just a movie. It's not just a movie. It's never just a movie. It's important, it's meaningful, and it defines many of us. The things that happened in those movies. For me, I just remember so many moments at the cinema, my first cinema experience, watching The Phantom Menace, and just everything sticking in me, like choices that you should make in life about being a Jedi and doing what's heroic and honorable. And it's the same for many other people. Like, Star Wars gives you these qualities as a human being, but I don't feel like you can get this from the new Star Wars movies. But this is why I love Star Wars fans. This is why I love making these videos for you, so we could talk about it. And of course, I would love to hear what your thoughts were and what you think the major problem with The Last Jedi was or is. Do you think it was something trivial, or do you agree with me that it was the fact that they just gave you nothing to look forward to in episode 9? They, in a way, have kind of hit the self-destruct button, because they've made it very hard for themselves to make a film like episode 9, to draw in the audience to answer questions, because these questions of these characters have already been answered in a terrible way in episode 8. So they haven't created anything new to ponder over for episode 9. So I'd love to know what you think about all that. You may even love episode 8, and that's great. And even if you loved it, then I would love to know why you loved it as well. So just your thoughts on what there is to look forward to in episode 9, anything like that, that'd be great. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and my strong opinions, of course, again, but I really enjoyed talking to you about it. Be sure to check out my other videos at the end of this video. Just click on them when the screen comes. Also subscribe if you enjoy this and you want to see more Star Wars themed videos like this, and also the Star Wars trailer reactions as well. They're a mandatory must. So hope you enjoyed all. Hope you enjoyed this video. Take care of yourselves, and remember, the Force will be with you always.